right, welcome to Real Men, Iowa. We're here today, Mike Damastis and we are alone in the studio because there's a lot of angry people out there who decided
There
not to
are,
come.
there are. Steve Rowland is angry.
Anger. I think Steve and anger,
Exactly.
it just rolls off your tongue. And because of that, we decided to talk about anger today.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's possible he might legitimately become angry if he ever actually watches this. We were talking a little bit ahead of time, and I'll just kind of throw this out and we can kind of do what we want. But here's my difficulty with anger. I mean, we all know this is like, we're Christ followers, right? This is a Bible-based program. We're talking Jesus. So no one's like sitting here, I wonder if it's okay to be angry. I mean, so we're not going to, I mean, obviously, there's a line, right? Here's been my struggle throughout the years of anger is something happens and I'll immediately want to become angry. And then I'll start processing, wait a minute, should I be angry? Right? And I'll think of all the real, what would Jesus do? I'll go through all the typical little thoughts, well, is this a pride thing? And I'll analyze whether I should be angry or not. So I'll sit there and think, I don't know if I should be angry or not. Now, this is obviously in a more of a slow motion thing, not like someone punches you in the face and reaction. But I mean, just like, okay, there's a situation that happened, should I be angry? So I tend to, my pattern is if there's something I really should be angry about, I've talked myself out of it. So I don't get angry. I had a situation years ago. I used to meet with a group of pastors three times a year in Colorado, and we would kind of talk about what's going on in our churches and stuff. And a situation was going on that was like really disastrous to a church, right? That I happened to be a part of. And I was kind of saying what I was doing, and we kind of would give each other advice, right? And they all, to one, looked at me and said, "You idiot! Why aren't you angry? What makes you angry?" I'm like, I kind of talked myself out of it. Like I thought I shouldn't be angry. Would Jesus be, anyway, so what I'm saying is I have a poor history of being angry when I should be angry, but then I am angry when I shouldn't be angry because I'll like make things up in my mind and I'll blow things out of proportion, and then I find the facts later out that's like, yeah, I shouldn't have been angry about that. That's like a 3-year-old. I'm just being a silly fool. That's my struggle. So fix me, Mike.
Well,
You've got 25 minutes.
that's your wife's job, not mine. So actually, that's God's job. I tell you what, on the issue of anger, I speak in this arena only as a person that is like if we were having anger anonymous, hi, my name's Mike, I'm angry. I mean, that's genuinely it. Because
Right.
I still, to this very day, struggle with not handling anger well. We were talking in advance, and anger is what's called a secondary emotion. It's not a primary emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Primary emotions are difficult for us, it seems like, and so we typically will launch from a primary emotion. Say that emotion is rejection or hurt or whatever, and so we launch out of that because to stay there is too hard. It's too difficult for us to handle that most of the time, and so we go to something that is easier for us to deal with, like anger.
Yeah.
And so it's not that that's always bad, but anger always is a secondary emotion. So that means there's always a predecessor to anger. And it's good. It's a very healthy thing to do what you were talking about. Why am I angry? What's making me angry? Is this a pride thing or whatever? I don't do that. Just confessing, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Typically, I just jump to anger, and then I'm the bull in the china shop, and it's not a good thing. And,
Well, let me tell you how I learned that. I was 18, had a girlfriend of like 3 years. We were starting to have some troubles where it was like obvious, okay, this really should end, and it really should have been. I was going into Jesus more, and she was not, and that kind of stuff. But and she decided maybe I'll go a different direction. And we both were to Burger King, and there was some evening, I don't know, something was going on. They were having a Burger King party, and sometimes I'd go just to kind of watch them. I didn't ever do the stuff, but I would go out there. Anyway, she and this guy take off, and I'm like, that's interesting. Especially he's kind of a squirrely guy, right? Anyway, so then I waited a few minutes, and then I jumped in my car and started the direction they went. And I come up behind him on Merle Hay Road, over by like Charles Davis Ford is where this happened. And I pull up, and she's sitting right next to him, like they've been dating for 25 years or something. Well, she'd be sitting by the door then, like they were fresh dating, And I'm like, okay, that's not right. So I'm right behind him, and I honk, and they look back, and I wave, and they like split up immediately. And at that moment, I'm thinking, okay, this guy needs to be beat up. I mean, obviously, right? But I thought, I'm not going to do it here. We're in the middle of a pretty busy road. And they take off, and I take off. Well, I knew they were going back to this party thing later out of Sailorville. I go home, and I was like really methodical, right? I got on my motorcycle. I put on my leather jacket. I put on my leather boots. I put all my stuff on, like, which is really, as it turns out, saved my life.
This is the scene in the Avengers where they're getting ready for the battle. They're
Exactly.
up,
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yes.
And like that's what was going through my mind. I'm thinking about what I'm going to do to the guy. So even in my anger, it was like very methodical. I'm going to go beat the snot out of this kid, and I'm going to enjoy this. And he's not. And he was scared. I was at least twice his size. I'm like, dude, really, you're messing. Okay. Anyway, so I get on my motorcycle, and it's like 2 a.m, and I'm going very fast around the curves of Sailorville, right? And on top of it, I even put my helmet on, but my helmet had a dark visor on. But I was in too big of a hurry to change the visor to a clear visor. So it was darker than it needed to be. It's 2 a.m. I hit a pile of sand going around a corner.
Oh, man.
And you have that second where you go, if I fight this, I'm going to like tumble. I'm just going to go straight. And I go off in the ditch. And I don't even remember anything that happened. I didn't get hurt. Motorcycle got hurt quite a bit. And anyway, my point is, that was a long story to say, as I woke up the next day, I thought to myself, no human being is worth that. You know, I could have killed myself. I went back the next day, like I'd hit my helmet landed on a rock. I mean, it would have killed me, you know, but I luckily had my helmet on. And but I had all that gear on, so I wasn't hurt, you know, any of that at all, as far as nothing broken and everything, no scratches. I was probably going 80 miles an hour off into the ditch. And yeah, I just decided that's just silly. So I've always had a pretty good control since then, but then I make poor choices. You know, I mean, that probably was a good reason to be angry. Probably not to respond by beating someone up, but yeah, I had mismanaged it still. And this is, what, 30 years later, you know, 35 or so years later.
If I could be completely open, I can remember meetings with people, either in leadership or even just with people in church, where I blew my top. And I'm embarrassed about how I reacted, how I treated people. And that's the thing about anger. And that's why Paul even says, in your anger, don't sin.
Because he knows you're going to be. You're human.
And so, you know, my thing is what I've seen in marriage situations and just in our own individual lives is that when we get to that stage, when we jump to anger, you know, whatever it was that preceded that, but we jump to anger, all of a sudden what we do is we give ourselves license to act and do and say whatever we want. And we just figure, I'll deal with repercussions later, or I don't even care about repercussions. I'm just angry. And so take my wrath. And so we're like a volcano spewing lava. And it's an awful thing, you know, that happens typically. And a lot of people, you know, what I know is most of us are either one of the other. We're stuffers or we're spewers.
Right.
There's, you know, the stuffer is the person that kind of keeps putting it in, and then it's like that box at Christmas time. You got the Christmas tree. We put our box in there, you know, and our tree is in the same Christmas box every year, and I use more and more duct tape every year to keep it in. But it's like you can just touch the tape and it all comes out. Yes. Yeah. And that's kind of like a stuffer, you know, a person that keeps stuffing things that they haven't properly dealt with. And then all of a sudden, there's that one little incident. And it might not be anything that you would think would make somebody crazy, but they go quote unquote postal, you know, because it's just they've gone over the top and they've stuffed too much. And then there's the spewers, and I think I'm probably more in that category personally, where, you know, I don't manage anger very well, and even though I spew out my anger at times, and I feel better at the end of that, everybody else is still like, they're just kind of stuck in this
wiping the vomit off their sleeves.
It's just you know, I feel good, you know, but everybody else is like, you know, just
can't we get over this now?
Still in the mess, and it's not a good thing. Stuffing and spewing, neither one of those are healthy. And when it comes to dealing with anger, and you know, that's Paul gives very good counsel on the subject. So does the brother of Jesus. James says that we need to be slow to become angry, you know,
and slow to speak.
Yes.
Because when you are angry, you're going to say some things that aren't all that smart.
Right, and we can become a Gatling gun of the mouth, and just spew out whatever it is, and it's not good. I've known people in their anger, Christians, that would never ever cuss.
Yeah.
I mean, but when they become angry,
They lose.
they all those words that are stuffed back in there, they're coming right out, and that's it's just like I said, we give ourselves license to behave in ways that we would never normally do so.
Or even because, like, especially stuffers, I tend to be a stuffer, and because I logically like, oh no, that's not, I shouldn't be angry about that, and I'll talk myself down. But I haven't resolved the issue, whatever the issue is.
Right.
It's like you say, it could be disappointment. How many times have you gone into a church meeting with a certain expectation? Here, I'd really like to get this done, and you in your head, you've already resolved it. They've never even heard of it. We're going to start making blue ice cream, and they're like, why do we need ice cream and why blue? But you already have it worked out.
Yes.
And then you just get angry because they can't see it. That's human. We all do that. But then the stuffer, I'll kind of like, okay, I'll put it at bay. Next time we'll figure this out. We'll talk more. We'll come a better strategy, whatever. But then when it goes, it's not even a matter of giving myself license. It just goes. Now I mean I don't know. I probably shouldn't say that because I tend not to do the square stuff. There's a lot of stuff I don't do.
Right.
But I do. I say things I shouldn't say.
Right.
Accuse people of things they haven't done.
Right.
Things like that. That a sane person would be going, why are you even accusing me of that when why would it make you say that? Well, I just made it up in my head, because I was up all night thinking this situation through, and I thought it with you, the villain, and I'm the good guy, and that wasn't really the case.
Or belittle somebody, just by the tone that you take with them, because you are angry with them, and so you feel like you have the right now to treat them in a demeaning way or a condescending way, and you really should have thought that through. That was really stupid, whatever. Or how, it wouldn't say stupid, but you know what I mean. Just in a way and a tone that we can take in anger, that we're lashing out at a person. And we might not be throwing fists or anything like that, but we are with our mouth, and we're giving them a pretty good beating.
We have a joke in our marriage. My wife and I, years ago, early in our marriage, I couldn't find my keys, and I was like, help me find my keys, and my wife's just sitting there watching TV or whatever, and I mean, they're not her keys, it's not her emergency, whatever. And it was really getting angry that she wasn't helping me, And I'm like, well, they're not in here, or they're not in there. And I kept saying things like trying to hint. I didn't actually say, would you please get up and help me find my keys? Finally, I just got so angry, and I was just like, well, I put them on the microwave. What'd you do with them? And she's like, what? It doesn't even sound like that big of a deal, but at the time it was like really accusatory. This is all your fault. And she's like, I'm just sitting here watching Oprah or whatever, she wouldn't, whatever. And you're jumping on down my throat here. And so that's like our big joke now. One of us starts getting angry, we'll just say, yeah, put it in the microwave. What'd you do with it? But it wasn't funny at the time. It wasn't funny. Yeah.
Well,
it's terrible.
Again, I'll get a little transparent on my own, but my wife and I, when we first started in marriage, both of us had no real great examples of how to resolve conflict or deal with conflict.
Yeah.
And she came from a family of loud talkers, and I would say probably similar, but we both, I remember putting a hole in the wall. I remember just getting so angry, just punching a wall, and then you punch the wall and you're like, wait, I rent this apartment, and it's like crap, and or whatever. Just stuff, silly stuff, breaking things, and just that's just none of that. We've grown up. We're literally about to celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary in December. So we've learned how to deal with conflict. We don't act that way anymore. But we went through some really hard times because we did not manage our own anger well, and that put us through more hardship than we needed to go through if we had learned better, quicker.
Right. So, I think it's a journey. We're on this journey as followers of Christ. You're not going to watch this video and suddenly fix yourself or suddenly invite the Holy Spirit into your life at a deeper level. Hope you will, but you're not going to be fixed tomorrow is my point. It is a journey. It's one step at a time, and it's figure things out. I don't know. I thought this was a little bit interesting. I found this article, actually, for those of you who are old school and remember the Institute and Basic Life Principles. Their website's up and active, and I was kind of surprised to see that. But there was an article on there, how can I conquer anger? And I thought, I remember the principles from Bill Gothard being very, very solid. There might have been some integrity issues later on, but that's not our issue today. But the principles here are solid. And so here's, he talks about anger destroying relationships and generating violence. We've been talking about that. It can, luckily, fortunately, we both have spouses that are full of grace, and we are too, with mercy, and you work that out in your marriage. Some marriages might not survive that. One of my daughters, she grew up in a family, our family. They've probably never seen us argue. We just don't argue. My wife and I just get along. We just see eye to eye on almost everything, which is really weird. I mean, we have our differences, but we just, I don't know if we've ever raised voices, which is kind of hard to believe. I almost sound fairy tale-ish when I say that, but we just don't, right? Frustration once in a while, but nothing. Anyway, beside the point. So that's normal to them. And like one of my gals is with a guy who's with a family of screamers. They don't stuff. They just, and then they're all better. And so far, and it's been with this person for a long time. There's not a lot of screaming, but we've had the conversation now. Here, you got to understand, this is normal to him. You guys are gonna have to work this out. If you're talking marriage and all that stuff, this is something you've got to look at, because you both have a different normal of how you handle anger. Anyway, yeah, that'll be fun. Here are some insights. We can get your thoughts on this. Following insights offer keys to resolving anger. Number one, accept personal responsibility for your anger.
I think that's really important. And, this is real men radio. And so anger is such an issue for men in particular. Women, there are angry women. I'm not going to say that they're not angry, but it's just that it seems like us guys have a harder struggle with this issue in particular. Most people would say, well, if anger is 1 through 10 and 10 is I'm most angry, a lot of guys, frankly, just the way they live their life, they're waking up in the morning before their day even starts at an 8.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they're ready to explode almost already.
Right.
And so that means
it's everybody else's fault.
Yes. And then you get up and you can't find your car keys, or you're driving down the road and a guy cuts you off, or they're driving too slow or whatever. And all of a sudden you are raging because you're out of control. And Satan has taken the opportunity in that to get a hold of your life. And kind of like a car, he's driving you because you are out of control, literally, with anger. And so I think the key is for us is to get back in control, like you say. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. We've got to begin to take responsibility and recognize, why the heck am I waking up so angry?
Yeah. I'm choosing this emotion.
Yeah.
I'm choosing it.
Why am I here right now? Why, and again, it's a secondary emotion, but most guys are starting already ready to kill someone. And so we've got to kind of notch that way down and try to get back into some serious control. And I would just challenge men that are listening to this, really take a personal time of self-examination. What the heck has got you so angry?
Yeah.
Is it your childhood? Are you mad at dad, or do you feel cheated, or are you angry because of your marriage or whatever? I mean, you've got to genuinely ask God to help you deal with this. And that's part of taking responsibility for this.
I want to interject it's kind of a cross post, so to speak. A few weeks ago, we talked about porn, right? Mm-hmm. And I signed up that day for the 30-day challenge from the XXX Church.
I remember you said that.
And it's been really fascinating reading that, right? So I got a post yesterday, and I thought, man, this applies to so many things. In this post, the guy said we always face it as a battle. I'm going to conquer porn. I'm going to conquer anger in our situation today. And they said he used to be in a group. They even used, a lot of the terminology of a lot of the common books and everything. Well, it's every man's battle and all this stuff. And their whole group, their accountability group, would do that. But then they still end up reverting back. He said this guy's idea was maybe we need to rethink the whole idea. Is it a battle or is it a journey? Lay down the battle and just say, I'm on a journey. Today's where I'm at. I'm going to take one more step. I've just been processing that since then, and it kind of really connects with the anger thing here.
It almost sounds like a Alcoholics Anonymous approach, is that, I can't worry about next week. I got to worry about today.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I
because
think,
battle's even kind of an anger. Like I'm in stance. I'm like, "Arr," and it's
yeah,
like, no, dude, you're on a walk in the park.
right,
You know,
right,
I mean, there is battle and there's
right,
struggle, but maybe in the anger thing, we're facing it with anger. I'm so angry at my anger, and that didn't really help.
right.
It's a journey. I don't know. I'm still
No,
processing.
yeah, I get that, and I think that there's benefit. I think there's benefit on both sides of that, honestly, and I think that you don't want to go to two extremes, but
Right.
I do think it's really important for us to not have such a long range vision of I can't wait to get to that point where I'm free, I'm free, I'm free. But maybe you've got to just look at right now. Maybe for some guys, really quote unquote the battle or the real picture is God, let me get through this next 60 minutes
Yeah.
without being frustrated.
Yeah. I'm in this meeting and I'm angry. They're not seeing it the way I see it.
Hmm.
And I really want to. I mean, we've all been there. You're just like, you just want to just scream at them and say, "Are you serious? You're a bunch of idiots, you
Right.
fools," And
We should do a show on, what pastors wish they could say.
oh, we'll do a whole series.
Yeah.
If you could only read our minds. So anyway, yeah, accept personal responsibility. I think that's a huge start.
Absolutely.
You're putting it on. You're owning it. There's nothing worse than a politician saying, "I take full responsibility," knowing that means nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
These words were my responsibility. No, it goes. No, don't just let it say. Don't just say it. You actually say, "No, I own this.
Right.
I'm choosing to be angry at my wife. I'm choosing to be angry at my boss, my children, whoever." And now I'm gonna go from there. It's not their fault. Secondly, see anger through the experience of those who are damaged by it.
That's really tough,
Yeah. Because they deserve it.
Right, absolutely. I I look at, I feel like I'm being too open. But my wife has talked to me before about, just you always seem grouchy. You always seem like you're grouchy, and and I think about, both of my sons, and when they look back, and they kind of look at their childhood, are they going to remember me as the grouchy dad, and do I want to be
Right,
remembered
yeah.
that way, and so that's those are good questions, I think, to ask yourself and examine yourself in that. I don't want to be viewed that way. I don't want to be known that way, and so I think that that's important. To what kind of persona are you exuding to other people? How are they looking at you? How do they perceive you? Does your wife have to walk on eggshells?
That'd be awful. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So part of what he's saying here is to actually sit down your family members or board members or work people and say, I have been angry with you, and it's been obvious. Tell me what that did to you. And it says don't talk, don't justify, because that's gonna be our immediate. Well, yeah, but just listen, let them tell their story, and then process it. It's like, ugh.
that's good. That's a powerful exercise.
Especially if you've done the first step and you've owned it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're like, okay, not only have I chosen this, I've chosen to hurt people that I love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, usually I'm angry at them because I love them.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to be as smart as I am. Okay, here's the third one. Third one. Act quickly to resolve past offenses.
That's just healthy. I think that's good.
Yeah.
And maybe that means picking up the phone and calling somebody, and just saying, hey, last week, you might be past this and it's nothing to you, but I know I said some things to you because I was angry and I treated you in
Yeah.
a way that was wrong, and I got to ask for your forgiveness. That's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, and then you can both move on.
Yep.
Because you've kind of gone back to ground zero. Let's see. Acknowledge the anger of your forefathers. It says your parents give way to anger. You've learned how to be angry through somebody. So that's kind of their point there.
That's good.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I probably do react the way maybe my dad. I don't know. I have to think that through more to really.
My natural
that.
father left when I was 18 months old, and
Yeah,
so I didn't really have a connection to him until 2008 when I reached out to him and kind of got reconnected. But I know for many years I was angry with him, even though I didn't know him.
Yeah, yeah.
Just because I felt like you missed out. You abandoned me. For a long time, I was like, what was wrong with me? Whatever. But then
Yeah.
it was like it turned into anger because it's like, no, dude, you totally blew it. You messed up.
Yeah.
So
Well, you get older and you realize, wait a minute, I was too young. It had nothing to do with me.
right,
You didn't even know me.
right.
You ran from responsibility or whatever. Yeah, yeah. Let's see here. Did I say regain surrendered ground?
Nope.
Okay, regain surrendered ground. He mentions Apostle Paul in Ephesians 4, be angry, but don't sin. Don't let the sun go down in your anger. Don't give the devil a foothold. Every time you allow anger to turn to wrath, you give Satan permission to torment you. He builds strongholds in these areas. Um,
Ain't that the truth?
yeah, yeah. So he says, confess the sins that cause the anger, claim the cleansing power of the blood of Christ over that power of sin, and ask God to take back that ground you surrendered. Because, yeah, I mean, if you're spewing stuff, you just gave up some ground.
Hmm.
And what is it? Maxwell talks about having pocket change, leadership change. You had to give some coins back, and you've lost value in some
Hmm.
people's lives. Let's see. Fully forgive your offenders.
Hmm. That's a very powerful exercise. Um, if part of what's making you angry is, like I said, maybe your childhood, maybe it's your father, maybe it's your wife, maybe it's your marriage. You're
Mhm.
angry, and that's a very important thing. I think that there are some husbands that could do very well just with even in their own heart, just forgiving their wives for what they see as a perceived offense.
Okay, this is interesting here. Learn to see the potential benefits from anger causing events. Responding well to frustrations can build character into your life, increase your maturity, and increase your sensitivity to others who are facing similar situations. Learn to see the potential benefits from anger causing events.
Hmm.
I don't know that he's saying put yourself in a place, but at least appreciate.
If you handle it in a different way,
Yeah,
what could you receive out of that experience that could have been better?
yeah,
Sometimes it's going to be hard.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sometimes that's really going to be hard.
I mean, I suppose that's what I did with my motorcycle deal in high school. I
Hmm.
sat there and I evaluated it and thought, okay, I don't know if I want to spend the rest of my life, flying off of ditches.
Yeah.
Y- You know, um, maybe I should control myself,
Hmm.
and so I'm still figuring that out. But maybe that's the idea. Interesting. Let's see. I'm only a couple three here. Two more. Place personal rights under God's control.
Hmm.
There we go. If they violate your personal rights, we tend to get angry. You can identify which your rights was violated the last time you got angry. Yield your personal rights and possessions to God. Then you'll no longer be the owner, but rather you'll be the steward of what belongs to Him. I think
That's
that's
really
huge.
good. Yeah, that's really good.
That's huge. Okay, so I'm in college. I have all these great stories now. Right? I'm in college, and I'm our music director, Mark Deacons, asked me to stay at his house for a number of weeks over the summer. He was off doing whatever, music things, right? And so his house was going to be empty, and he just wanted someone there. So I'm staying there, and one night I'm for what I don't even know why I'm doing. He has like, okay, give you some context. He has like really nice furniture and really nice houses, brand new house they built. Um, the furniture is from like one of these high end places, stuff that I've never still don't look at. Like, oh yeah, I don't do that, right? Anyway, I'm laying on the floor on my back, just laying on the floor, and I'm throwing my keys up in the air. I don't know, I'm 20. I don't know why I'm doing this, right? And I throw them up, and one time it doesn't come down. I'm like, that, uh-oh, and I hear a thunk because I was sitting laying next to a coffee table thing.
Uh-oh.
I'm like, oh, okay, this is gonna be bad. And I get up there and I put a dent in this, who knows how expensive Ethan Allen table. And I'm like, the guy just trusted me with his home, and I like, Anyway, I was like so worried, and I saw him, and within 10 seconds, I was like, Mark, man, I gotta tell you, I did this thing, and like I'll never. His whole reaction was like, well, it's God's.
Hmm.
I mean, like. To this day, it impacts me, thinking I would have been upset because I'm like, are you kidding? I saved well, I didn't say 14 years. I saved a lot of money. I spent a lot of money on that. It's my pride and joy. It's in the center of my living room. And you jerk was just being irresponsible, stupid kid, And we still, I saw him a couple weeks ago in Lexington, and we had lunch together, and we still laugh about that. We were laughing about that. I'm like, dude, the guy, he still has that table 30 years later, And he still sees that dent. And he said it's been a story over the years he's used with his kids. He was a teacher with music. Anyway, that was a healthy guy there.
Yep.
Who knows in the quiet of the evening, as he's going to bed thinking, why did I have Dan watch my
Yeah.
But it wasn't in his eyes. It wasn't in his body language. It was, he was just like, what's God's?
My own story in that arena is that I remember we had just gotten a brand new minivan, Dodge Caravan.
Oh, yeah.
Brand new. Off of the lot at Stu Hansen's Dodge. And
they're not cheap.
No. And my oldest son was in the back seat, sitting kind of in a booster seat. And we had stopped and gotten drinks, and he got this red pop.
No.
Why the heck did I get a red pop?
Oh, no.
But inevitably he spilled it all over I didn't even have this thing for a day, and I don't know if it was the exact same day. It was either the same day or the very next day that I had it, and he just began to weep. He was bawling. I opened up the door and I grabbed him, pulled him out of his seat. I'm like, buddy, I love you so much more than this van, and that was a moment where I didn't blow it. I'm happy that I didn't blow it. Because that could have been a moment for him to look back on. I remember when I spilled the red stuff on your van and you just went crazy, Dad.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that, and I'm glad I didn't, because it was just a van. It was just a thing.
Yeah.
And good lesson for me to never buy a brand new vehicle again, because
not when you have young children.
Yes, I don't buy new vehicles. I always buy used. So,
yeah.
Anyways, that's the lesson.
We have a banister or whatever, hand railing at our house, a wooden oak thing, and my young daughter used to always swing around on it to go. It was like a split level thing and to go around, and I kept telling her, don't do that. You're going to pull that thing out. You're going to break the handrail. I have no idea how to fix a handrail. That's just not my skill set, right? And so just please don't do that. And she always would do it. Well, one day, and she's just this happy girl bouncing around. It's just not like she was like, I'm going to show Dad. One day she did it, and she pulled the thing out. I'm looking at it, and at first my heart broke because I knew she was upset, but I couldn't tell if she was really upset. So I had to make myself sound angry. We kind of laugh at this now. To be like, I told you, I don't know. That's kind of a dorky story, but I guess I didn't really care, but at the same time, it's like I kind of cared because I wanted her to at least respect instruction, but I guess in that instance, it was a win too. It's like, well, it's God's house. I'm not, it's a house. It's a hand railing. But I had to almost act angry, and then she kind of got, oh, that really was kind of a bad, wasn't I wasn't listening, and she ran off, and then I was there with my wife, that's kind of funny, and it wasn't a big deal to fix. I'd never had one apart, so I didn't know how to fix it, and we fixed it, and then we got together a few minutes later and say, it's okay, I don't know about it. It's no big deal, but
right.
There's a reason I tell you these things, and that's why. And
well, you know what? keeping stuff in the right perspective is really a good thing, and I know at our church, and we're not a new church, we're an established church, but at our church, I've told people before from the pulpit that, sometimes this place smells like urine because people pee on stuff. It seems like, they mark their territory. That's my soundboard. That's my kitchen. That's my whatever. And so you get new people that come in and, and they all of a sudden find themselves in the middle of a turf war. They didn't even know that there was, and that's really silly that people, take ownership over things that aren't theirs.
Right.
That's God's stuff.
And it becomes a battle.
Yeah, it does. And it's like, seriously?
Yeah.
Seriously? That's not your kitchen. That's not your soundboard. Those aren't your microphones. Those aren't your
Exactly.
instrument. Well, yeah, they are. But you know what I mean? Whatever.
Exactly.
So we take ownership over stuff that we have no business taking ownership over. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and,
I actually had someone once tell a guest, "You're sitting in my seat." It was like 20 years. It wasn't in this particular church, and I heard that. I'm like, "You've got to be joking me." I mean,
Yeah.
I thought that was like something people joked about.
Yeah.
And like they
And
really
you heard it.
said that. Like, oh man! But I just learned this year. Went to Philadelphia for for vacation, and I did not know this. They used to actually rent out the pews by the year. Like we sat in George Washington's pew, and his name was on it. It was literally their pew. And I thought it wasn't that long ago in American history. It really probably comes from our history. It was their
You're
pew.
sitting in my spot.
They paid a money. It was a yearly rental fee.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's how the
Wow.
church did their budget. I know. It's like I was like, why did we leave that?
Yeah, exactly.
Here's your charge for
Yes.
being able to come to our church. I don't care if you come or not. Just make sure you pay your bill. No, that's not true. But that's what they did, and so that
Boy,
actually
you know how
has
much
a
we
root.
could make off the back seats?
What's that?
I said, you know how much money we could make off the back
Oh,
seats?
I know it. And back then it was more about the closer
I know,
you got because you
I know.
had no sound system and everything. Anyway, I thought that was fascinating. Totally had nothing to do with anger, but
Yeah, that's funny. That's very funny.
let's see. We're about done here. This is the last one. Well, not quite. Establish a structure of accountability.
That's, just like we said with porn, I think that's the same thing.
Yeah.
I think that, you need to be able to say, hey, I'm waking up at an 8. My goal is to get down to a 2, help me get there, and so that's a good thing.
It'd be good to have that person you could do text or whatever. Hey, pray
Yes.
for me today. I'm really on edge. I don't know why,
Yes.
or whatever. Yeah, that's certainly good. And then the last one is purpose to walk in the Spirit. And you think about what's the gifts of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience. I'm not seeing anger pop up. Gentleness, self-control. It's that's an odd thing. I'm not probably even done sermon series on the fruits of the Spirit. It's almost like, well, let's try to do this, but that's not what a fruit is. A fruit is an automatic outcome.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you try to do or get better at. It's the more the Holy Spirit's in your life and controlling you, the more love and joy and peace, patience and kindness and gentleness that you have.
And a fruit isn't something that just is an instantaneous appearance. It just doesn't poof.
I'm going to make a fruit today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to mature. You have to grow.
Yeah.
You have to be watered. You have to be tended to. You have to clear out dead branches. All of that stuff makes for the space for a fruit to be able to be produced from a tree.
Yeah.
And same is true in our lives.
Definitely. All right, you got a proverb, right?
I do. This is proverb. Says this: a quick-tempered person does foolish things. And that is true.
Who hasn't lived that out?
Exactly. There are some proverbs that we could say, duh. And that might be one of them.
A quick-tempered person does foolish things?
Yes.
Did I skip a word? Okay.
No, that's it.
Yeah,
That's the truth, man. And we can all testify that. We can all say, amen. I've been there. I've done that. And how many of us, even just in the context of our marital relationship, have done foolish things because we quick-tempered, we did it. We let our temper go, and all of a sudden we're into something stupid.
Yep. And if you follow this advice, own it.
Mm-hmm.
Start rooting it out, figure out the root, what's going on, and get some accountability in your life and start working it out.
Mm-hmm.
Apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Look at it through their eyes, and yeah. Well, have you figured this out? What's your advice?
I think that we've handled it well in terms of discussing it, but I still know that I'm a beta.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of work to do yet. So, and I think most guys do. But my challenge would be to anybody that would listen to our show is that you genuinely need to recognize your own anger in your life. And whenever you see the words anger, rage, Malice typically goes along with that. Slander typically goes along with that. All of those words are kind of, it seems like, interconnected in Scripture, and all of them typically are put in the context of bad stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Really bad things are happening whenever those things are happening. And yes, you are going to get angry, but the times that you should be angry, frankly, in your life are going to be very minimal. And the things that make us angry should be the things that make God angry. And the things that we get angry about, God just can't believe that we're getting angry about.
He's like, really?
Yeah, exactly.
I got people starving to death over here, and you're angry that someone cut you off?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Yeah.
So
and here's something to keep in mind, I think, too. You mentioned your growth in the area over the years. That if someone's 25 right now and they're saying, "Man, I have struggles with anger. I just got to wait till I'm 50 and I'll be okay." You'll have the same anger unless you're intentionally doing some of the things we talked about.
Right. Exactly.
It doesn't mean you will be fixed tomorrow, but it means 10 years goes by, you'll think, "Man, that used to make me angry."
Yep.
And not so much now.
Yeah. And that's
and maybe once in a while it still will, but not like it used to.
Right.
And so that's the thing is it's that journey.
Right.
You're walking one step at a time, and that's how you mature. That's how.
Right.
That's how the
and if
fruit
you're wanting
comes
the
out.
fruit of the Spirit to be produced, it's that gardening metaphor of, you've got to, that tree might be a real skinny little sapling right now, and you've got to kind of clear some ground brush around it. You've got to make sure and water that thing and let that tree grow up. And then all of a sudden, where you used to be really angry, people are going to go, "Wow, you know what? You are one of the most joyful people I've ever met."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is an amazing thing. I knew a gal. Her name was Margaret Poole, but she passed away several years ago, and she was an elderly woman. I have never met another elderly woman like her. She was the most joyful person I ever knew. Just loving, wonderful, godly, joyful person. And most, I hate to say this, but most elderly people I wouldn't categorize that way.
Yeah.
And but she was, and I want to be like that. I want to be somebody that's just happy and fun to be around.
Very cool. We got a conference coming up
Yes.
in 2017.
Yes, March 17th, 2017. 3/17/17. It's Friday night at 10 or 7 o'clock. It goes from 7 to 10. It'll be at Rising Sun Church of Christ. Our keynote speaker is T.C. Stallings. Worship's going to be by Jeff Arundel, and this is an event you're going to want to grab a guy and just say, "Man, you need to be here. You need to come to this event." Because I know I've heard T.C. Stallings before. I believe he'll even speak probably about some of the things we were talking about today, because he's specifically addressing men and trying to be the most be the man that God's calling you to be. That's the focus of both of his messages. So you will not want to miss this event. I'm excited for it, and it's going to be an awesome thing.
Very exciting. It's great to have several hundred guys together. We fill that thing. We fill that room. They hear their voices singing together.
I know.
What I love, Jeff Arundel, he's going to be great. He's going to be great. He is perfectly designed for what we're talking about doing.
Right.
It's going to be better than what we've had. I mean, I can say that because that was our band. I mean, it is. I'm pretty excited about seeing how people are going to react.
Yeah, it'll be different for sure.
Yeah,
but I'm excited, and it is kind of for me a little sad because gonna miss having Pathway there. But I think Jeff Arundel is going to do a great job. I've heard him before, and he is fantastic. So
got a great heart, great. They're the real deal. So
Yep.
yeah, it'll be fun. All right,
cool.
Well, that's all we got. Real Men Iowa.